Welcome again, everyone. Bill here in non-sunny, wet South Texas. Jim and Dave, you guys on?
Yeah, I'm up here in the beautiful, no rain, Connecticut.
74 degrees and zero humidity, Bill. Sorry about it.
Yeah, we're really sorry about that. Our hearts are breaking.
And my super is probably a submarine right now in Houston. I have a super that's being worked on, and I don't have much hope of ever getting that thing back. But
well, bear in mind, you submarine your car, that's terrible, man. And, if it was just a car, but that car.
It was going to come back with more than 1,000 horsepower.
Yeah, Bill has one of those things where they got two keys. One key says normal, and the other key says whacked out. Well, I guess the red one says whacked out. Bill actually does every day choose between the two color, but not pills, keys.
It's funny you say that. In my Dodge, I do have two keys. I have a black key and a red key.
Yeah. Red key says hair on
which
fire.
Which one's the good one?
You really want a thrill? Here, try this one.
Well, we're going to try again with YouTube. Our intention is to make this a public interview. And last time we tried with YouTube, we were taken down. We believe we were deemed as fake news. They would not respond. I believe we wrote to them 5 times and got 0 response as to why it was taken down. It was never put back up. We've been using Vimeo since that. So we're going to record this, put it on YouTube, and when they decide we're fake news again, we'll put it up under Vimeo.
It's probably already eliminated.
It'll probably bounce back at us.
That's right. But fake news it's not, Bill. It's one of your historical calls.
Well, I put an article out yesterday connecting what happened Friday. And Friday was a big day. As you put it, Jim, the Jolly Green Giant walked in, dumped 2 million ounces of gold, 50 million ounces of silver, and by the end of the day, gold and silver were up. And at the end of the day, the dollar was decimated, closed right at the 92.50 level. And we think there's a connection to that. But why don't you talk a little bit about that, if you want to call it outside day action? I mean, it's the first time.
It's somewhat like a letter, if I could start off with that we got from one of our listeners, who says, if I may say, he was extraordinarily polite, okay? And we tend to answer back the same way, but what the letter said is, it's like going to a bar and listening to 3 old farts talking about the world, what happened to gold, silver, markets, timing, predictions, et cetera, et cetera. And the answer is, dummy, there are no markets. All there is inert machines screwing with each other. But something has happened. And if you connect the dots, those dots seem to say to me, and I believe Bill is on, Dave is on, that one of the reasons why the dollar's taken this trip from 103 to 93 and lower is dollar strength has relied a great deal on the degree of military power, actually the military power in the world. And we've all gone geek nuts, okay? We actually think money is made out of in cyberspace. Well, what's happened is we've taken ourselves to such a point of computerization that somebody in a small country in his garage probably made something the size of that little tiny pistol in the guys that wear black suits. And what's happened is there is an ability to create real camouflage by shutting down the ability via computers to recognize, see, and even predict where something should be. Now, the recent collisions that we've had, there's a really, you talk about a rat in a barrel somewhere. David, talk about the form of the damage that's been done recently in the various collisions we've had between the slowest boats in the world and the fastest boats in the world.
Well, it's like we talked about earlier, Jim. If anybody just took the time and looked at the photos, and you could Google them, just Google USS Fitzgerald post-accident photos. The damage to the ship looks like a beer can that got stepped on. If the ship was in motion at the time that it was hit, you would see a scrape mark going down the side of the ship, even if the ship was moving at 3 knots, 5 knots. A ship does not come to a dead stop. It has a large mass moving through water. So all it tells you, and the media is not telling us this, is that ship was at a dead stop when it was hit. Both of them were at a dead stop when they were hit. I challenge anybody to Google the photos and come to a different conclusion. So as you are saying here, that tells you the U.S. military has an adversary that has an advantage, that has the ability to neutralize what was thought to be the most powerful Navy on the planet. Would you agree?
I agree. I agree completely, and I'm going to shut the door because the dogs agree too.
And David, I didn't know this. You just mentioned it to me this morning. The McCain was one of the ships that went through the South China Sea.
Right. Well, if you look up where the USS McCain came from, it had just transited the South China Sea. It went inside, whether we all agree or don't agree whether it's China's exclusion zone. They believe it is. They have told us on several occasions to please stop doing that, or we are going to have to respond. I mean, can people not connect the dots? Are we that far down the rabbit hole that the average American doesn't realize that we're being called out? You've let your dog in my backyard for the 5th time, and it's killing my chickens. Pretty soon, the farmer's going to come out and shoot your dog. That's just what.
Can I interject on that one? A quick Sullivan story. Bert had a Newfoundland, okay, and we lived in Hartsdale, and he took the train. Train came in. He walked up the hill. It was a pretty good sized hill to the house. One time he's walking out, and the guy screams out the window. He said, "Sullivan, if that dog of yours, that cow, craps on my lawn one more time, I'm going to kill it." Bert yells back, "No, you're not." And the guy says, "Why?" He says, "Because I'm going to come in and kill you first." Okay. I'm sorry. That one just brought that story up. I had to give it.
That's why tall fences make good neighbors.
Yeah, always. If you can see your neighbors, they can see you, you're both in trouble.
Right. Well, and isn't that what China's doing, building the South China Seas out? They're building a fence.
And that's oil and gas, okay? And they are building a fence, and they've been at it for years, okay? And when they built the island, that was the biggest tell in the world. All of a sudden, one day, that sandbar became an island. They've blinded us somehow, where our ability to foresee is compromised. If our ability to foresee is compromised, then our ability on the battlefield today is compromised. I mean, we fight these Afghanis, and we got everything, including drones, looking for them, and we're still having a hard time. It looks as if it's back to basics, and the only way we're going to be able to fight is with a very large club and a very strong soldier. The dollar just went into the tank. And we know one of the greatest traders, mean, who specializes in currencies is, guess who? Our friend Soros. And when he breaks them, he breaks them. Right. I mean, he was a wanted man after his attack took out a great deal of the Asian Rim countries economically. Somebody of his size and ilk knows something we don't know. And that something has to do a great deal with dollar strength. And from the last, it's been about six collisions. I think Fitzgerald was a big one. And then these two. We're being shown that our weaponry is antiquated. That maybe our intercontinental ballistic missiles can't find downtown Chicago.
Yeah, it's 4 this year. One was up on a sandbar.
It was a grounding on a sandbar. Another was a South Korean ship we collided with.
Right. So there was 4 so far since January this year.
But then you got to take that one step further. Singapore has had, and don't hold me to the exact number, I know I could think of 2 off the top of my head. So Singapore is also having issues. So, again.
It's not economics anymore. Look, nobody listening thinks we're in a booming economy. We know better. We bring in Mr. Williams, we'll all get severe depression by knowing the real numbers. And the real numbers, not the phony things and the massage stuff that we'll be getting a lot of this week. This week is employment and all kinds of garbage. Those numbers aren't right. What's really making this thing run right now is a dollar that just dropped 1,000 points.
Right.
That's, I come from an era where people would be aghast that anything like that can happen. I remember sweating out for weeks 2 cents on silver. Okay, and for bond markets and for currency markets, they'll act like they are now. There's a thing called the death rattle. Okay, and I'm telling you, it's all rattling like mad.
Well,
and in the meantime,
pretty good on Friday, Jim.
Yeah.
I mean, to see that type of action in the past, you'd easily see gold smash $20, silver down 50 cents, and closing right on their lows for the day. People would go home in just a horrible mood, gold.
And email you guys and tell you that you're losers, you don't know what you're talking about.
That's the bartender.
But yesterday's action, somebody stepped up and bought the paper.
And it was somebody prepared.
Right, they were ready
if anything like this happened. I mean, the poor guy hasn't gone to the bathroom in about 2 weeks. Because we got a 24-hour market. There was a big preparation that if an enormous amount of anything came out, take it all and bid up. And that's what happened. That I call the Blythe lesson, because a trader at Blythe taught me that once when I tried to push him around. But at least I had the foresight to cover as fast as I possibly could because I knew this guy was serious. Well, somebody's extraordinarily serious in the gold market.
And
so they're still scratching around the 1,300. It's being taken out, okay? You don't bang along up here and die. You go through it. And, the political strength that's being given to gold and weakness to the dollar is something which is like a very serious creeping disease. It doesn't announce at one point you're dead. It just keeps going until you aren't. And this is going to keep going until gold has reached new highs and the dollar has gone down below 70. And you say, well, what? We're traded at 70. We're up from there. And the long-term downside measure has always been 56.
Right.
But the truth is, in buying power, it's nothing because we're almost there now.
Jim,
on any comparison of years past.
That it'll be interesting to see if and when there's another Jolly Green Giant drop of gold and silver of size like this to see what happens.
It will turn every commercial, and it will turn every major international trading house. Because what I learned as a kid in the over-the-counter market, a very simple called 101. Don't kick the Jolly Green Giant in a place where it hurts them. And this is really kicking the elephant in the ass and having to turn around and swatch it. So, the fellow who wrote the letter about being three old guys up at the bar should put out the next one. He made a mistake. They're four horsemen. Because this is the end, okay?
Well, Jim,
every sign and signal that you can take from accumulated history says that these non-markets, these phantoms in cyberspace, with no demand below them or supply above them, are going to be shown to be specters, ghosts, not real. And there are no specialists anymore, so no one's going to contribute capital to a fall. So we're going to become Flash Crash City. After a couple of flash crashes and a couple of Fridays, you talk about confidence in markets being lost. It means confidence there is a market. There isn't. There's a computer. And a computer is a dumb son of a bitch that doesn't have any ability to be afraid or to be greedy. And we have created our own demise. And I think that it's become evident militaristically. And it will be evident economically very soon. And if you're not prepared, then it would be like having a 50-inch rainstorm come down and not being prepared. Not even a pair of rubber boots.
Well, I'm familiar with 50-inch rainstorms, Jim.
Well, that's what we're going to get in the market. That's what's coming after Friday.
I wrote yesterday in the article I put out, it would only take a few $1 billion, less than $5 billion, way less than $5 billion, to clean up COMEX gold and COMEX silver. And I've said this for 4 years. I've said this since I think it was April or May of 2013, when it was just blatantly obvious what they were selling paper that was completely unbacked. Real capital is going to come in, stand for delivery, and that is the end of the game. That's the end of the paper game and the beginning of physical markets, 100% pricing metal.
And that's it. That is game over. That is reset, okay? Not by edict, but by market, the real market, the physical market.
Right, supply and demand.
Real supply and demand, not a paper that isn't even printed. We say paper gold. There's no paper in that. All computer entries.
Right.
You can't find. They say contract. Ask to see your contract, and they'll refer you to a website.
Jim, you put up, it was just a 3-line comment regarding base metals, base commodities looking like they're turning higher.
It's consumption, if not stockpiling. Okay, I'm going to bet you stockpiling, and I can tell you, I think you can cover your dots on that one. We have metals and materials today, without which we'd have to shut down major production from playing with your damn cell phone to launching an ICBM. Metals you can't even spell are going through the roof. And the other metals that are metals identified in heavy construction are also either firming or going higher. And while everybody's watching the new high on the Dow, what they're not watching is what's creeping up alongside all of this. Now, I don't know what to tell you about the Dow, because bear in mind that every time a currency has disappeared for a short period of time, its stock and equity indexes have gone bats on the upside. Well, maybe we've already seen that. Maybe that's another dot that never got connected, because do you hear anyone, even on CNN, that can give you a solid reason for new highs in any of the indices? They can't. I mean, this is the ultimate game of, hoping that there's one person nuttier than you are that's going to pay the price for whatever you're dealing in. And then we got central banks. When were central banks ever set up to go to be investors in securities. I mean, is that the idea of a central bank? I don't think so.
On that note, Jim, I don't know if you saw the story out this week that the Swiss Central Bank is a publicly traded stock, and it's up 88% since April. And its holdings of FANG stock has exploded this year. Well, I think I sent you a link to that article.
Every older Swiss economist and that have been around and market person for the last 300 years is spinning 9,000 RPM in their grave. Okay, I mean there never was anything as conservative as the Swiss Central Bank when I was a kid. Okay, it was like a divinity amongst money. When did they become wild-ass speculators? Which they are. That certainly shows they are. And there's no way to say they're not. They're right now because they're making themselves right. But it's a self-created prosperity, which at some point will run out.
Right.
Who do they sell to?
Well, they print their own money to buy their own stock. That's the ultimate pump. I mean, if you buy the dip with money that you print to make your portfolio look better.
Well, basically, it's the ultimate ability to handle margin because central banks as a whole, especially the Fed, have no way to go broke because their checkbooks are infinite,
unlimited,
and it could be the Fed playing using stooges to make something happen. I just can't get it through my head that the Swiss. Maybe there's 3 new generations, but there's Swiss blood in there somewhere, and it says, "What the hell are you doing?" I mean, Switzerland is. There'll be a time when you went by the Union Bank of Switzerland, you bowed your head and whispered. Okay. Now it's just another building full of nuts. It's the reverse of the New York Stock Exchange. There's nobody on the New York Stock Exchange. I mean, literally nobody. That building used to hold 6,500 people. The Stock Exchange, if you'll go down on any ordinary day, that means making new highs. 25 people maybe, 30 at the most. The only time any group gets down there is when there's a new issue, and that disappears fast. Everything has got the death rattle. If you don't prepare yourself, you heard the forecast of the hurricane, and you're giving a figure to the hurricane. It doesn't work. You're the guy that says, "I'm not moving out," who now all you can see is his dish TV receiver, nothing of the house. The person who doesn't have a bug-out bag is the person out there hoping to God the Red Cross comes to him because he's been in the same clothes now for 3 days.
Hey, Jim, I want to make a comment on that because I'm in this storm. I've had people equate, people that stayed and didn't leave that were in the line, in the forecast line where the storm was coming through. I think what some people are missing is, and I know quite a few people who did not leave because they couldn't afford to go anywhere. They couldn't afford to leave.
Price of fuel. What do you think a motel would be high and dry? Okay?
Yeah, you're talking about a $1,000 trip for 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, you think they're going to hold their price? Like hell they are to go into the highest bidder.
And that's a sad commentary, but I just want to throw that out there because it's reality.
Well, I would just say become a prepper or suffer. Okay? You know the subsistence livers in the cabins in places like the Arctic Wildlife Preserve all have a bug-out bag. For what? There's nobody for 90 miles. Oh, yeah. What if the cabin caught fire? And it's 50 below outside. You're going to go outside and stand? Oh, you'll be okay until the fire goes out. Then you die. So any good subsistence liver, right next to his door, if there's 3 people in the cabin, there's 5 bags. Okay? A little extra food, a little extra water. So, but that warm clothes that are in there. and matches and things that you need, or if not matches, an artisanal way to start a fire. And we sit back here, totally exposed, and nobody thinks about what if they were in Bill's position today. Now, Bill's prepared, so he has power. But let's say you got no power. How much cash you got in the house? Not much, because people have plenty of plastic, but cash is not something they've had and should have for a 3 to 6 month supply of necessaries. I mean, if anybody ever made fun of people who make preparations, they today are fools, because Texas needed it, and those that had it are comfortable, and those that didn't have it are uncomfortable, and those that didn't run because they couldn't afford to may not even be with us anymore.
Yeah, and anyone who was praying for rain in Texas can stop now.
Yeah, well, it's like the story of the minister in this Texas flood. You know, he's on top of his house, and he's praying away like mad. And firemen come by and they want to put the ladder. God's going to save me. Take away your ladder. And a guy comes by in a boat, wants to put the minister in the boat. The guy said, God's going to save me. Go away with the boat. And of course, you know what happened to the minister. He's not among us anymore due to the depth of the water. Guy can save you with a prepper's bag. Okay. Preparation is up to us. And we should all be able, in all areas of our life, to sustain some quality of life for our family or for ourselves or all. And, in the idea that nothing can ever go significantly wrong in global economics, history just calls that madness. Anybody who thinks a paper currency can sustain the effort they put into building the fortunes in their lives, especially if they actually worked. I mean, I don't mean the guys that steal from everybody on Wall Street. I'm talking about the fellow builds the asphalt driveway. I mean, anybody that ever was out there in the sun and sweat for their work, holding what they've got in dollars, feeling that, well, someday my body's not going to work as well as it did before, and I'm going to have to fall back, retire, or get an easier occupation. It's just not going to. You might as well throw it in a rat trap. What's going to sustain itself is anything with no counterparty risk. If you've got something that has no counterparty risk, you'll have an asset that can be sold at some price. And the best ones, of course, are going to be those that are historical monetary items.
I was going to mention, to backtrack on something you had said just a couple minutes ago about 6 months' worth of cash. When this thing goes, cash is not going to work for 6 months. That's what your silver is for.
It won't. Okay, but it will work for long enough that you go down to the grocery store with a 100-ounce bar. Okay.
Well, that won't work.
No, but it will work really good 4 months later when the cash stops working, which would probably be 4 weeks after it starts. I disagree a little bit with that, Jim. I really think that once we go into panic mode, I cannot envision cash being accepted more than 3 or 4 weeks. Yeah,
time.
I'm not going to, believe me, as to when that point in time comes is only relative to the degree of the unwind. And if we have a reset in the marketplace, yeah, then you've taken it down to the short period. But having some cash is, I think, a wise idea for the purpose of buying peanut butter.
Right,
if there's anything left in the grocery store.
Yep, out of the system.
Yeah.
And that gets back into the discussion about distribution and whether or not distribution works without credit. We just posted an article, I think Thursday or Friday, showing that Sears has got their suppliers are no longer supplying Sears because Sears is losing their credit. And
that's pure credit.
Right.
That is the other side. money losing its value, so how do you pay the people who drive the truck? So you got both of them happening at the same time, then you got a colossal economic upheaval.
You got a big hurricane.
Yeah, and you didn't make any preparations at all. Listen, I know you got a 900 horsepower car, but it would have been better to have a 900 horsepower boat in your garage.
Okay, so
with a sign, taxi, no set prices, make a bid.
There you go. You were going to say, David?
Well, so let's bring this, all right, so we're talking about, we believe that the U.S. is being challenged militarily and economically. And we have to come back to, and again, we talk too much about politics, but empires come and go. Our empire, we've lived in a very brief period of time, and Americans tend not to think in 5,000-year time spans. We tend to think in our recent history. I'm old, so to me, 50, 60 years, all right, well, that's a reasonable time frame. But that fails to encompass the fact that we're being challenged on a 5,000-year time frame. Our 250, 300 years as an empire could possibly be coming to an end. And what we're really trying to relay to the readers here is, if you're going to be a prepper, okay, so I don't have $100,000, I can't go buy gold. You still could fill 5, 10, 15-gallon water bottles. You could still, and even for the most stressed people, buy a silver dollar a week. When I was a kid, my grandfather used to give me a silver dollar when I used to go visit him. He was alive when gold confiscation happened, and he told me a story about it occurring. And he lived in several states away, and when my parents used to visit, he would always give me a real silver dollar, tell me it was real money and don't spend it because this is real money. Well, our readers are in the same position. I mean, so let's say a Silver Eagle selling for whatever, 17, 19, 20 bucks. If you took what you blew on lotto tickets and Dunkin' Donuts coffee and bought one Silver Eagle a week for the last 10 years, think about where you'd be at right now. You'd have real money. And, a lot of the value in silver comes down to it's the average man's gold. So to try and relate this to, one, we're being challenged. What could the average person do? Hopefully change their habits just a little, just enough to buy one Silver Eagle a week. And if they have the means, buy one gold coin a week of their choice. But,
Well, I think it's time for true confessions, okay? And I bought two tickets, the Powerball. And what I can guarantee you is if I had won, the odds only 1 in 300 million. That's easy. If I had won, you would have had one hell of an opening in gold on Monday.
Well,
at the market, cash gold. None of this paper
We'd have
crap.
to change your name to Buy 'em All Jim.
Yes, instead of selling Ben Smith.
Yeah.
Well, Jim, that actually that from a odds standpoint would be a really great play.
You're not just kidding. And you know why people buy those tickets? So they can spend 2 or 3 days figuring out how they're going to spend the money when they win. I mean, it is nuts. Your odds are 300 million to 1. For an American, we don't worry about that. Okay. That seems fair.
Well, David, when you were a kid, they called that running numbers. Now they call it the lottery.
Well, you got paid, but there was a good job for kids back there going picking up the slips. Now there's no more picking up the slips. The computer does it. Think about what the computer does and what happens if we've really blinded them. Okay? What if some little guy somewhere invented some little tiny thing somewhere that trumped all this great technology that we think is not only going to protect us, but if required, flatten the entire world. What if a guy like Mr. the certifiable kid in North Korea, got a hold of something like that? Well, I wouldn't be talking to you on the phone right now. I mean, we do have nuts in this world, almost everybody that runs a country. And for the UN to have the gall, to tell us that we should eliminate the First Amendment has got to be the epitome of getting rid of that worthless building in New York City.
Yeah, for those of you who are wondering what Jim's talking about here, the UN is recommending that the United States suspend the First Amendment in order to prevent hate speech.
You want to hear a hate speech? I'll give you my opinion on that.
Well, guys, let's wrap this up, and we'll send it off to YouTube and see if it's real or fake news or not.
Well, they're already gearing up to send this one to the round file.
And then when people see it on Vimeo, you'll know that we've been deemed to be fake news again.
Well, put it this way: I went a little bit overboard in my English, just challenging him to throw us out.
Well, let's see how this flies. You guys have a great week, Bill. I'll stay in touch. Jim, you do whatever it is you do and enjoy it.
Well, Bill right now is paddling with his new hip, and you and I are enjoying the day. So good luck to you, Bill. May that damn rain stop.
Thanks, guys.
All right, have a great week, guys. Bye.
Sure will.